Direct from Montreal, Canada, this is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone from the band Seether and the Nixons, it is drummer John Humphrey, who is a massive KISS fan. So, kudos to John. The band released, or the Nixons, I should say, released a new single called Favorite Lines. If you haven't checked that out, do head over to YouTube and all streaming services to have a listen. And the band went out on tour with Sponge. Now, I recorded the interview in early November, and I'm a little bit tardy in playing it. So I do apologize to John and the Nixons for that. But still, folks, stick around. It's a great interview, great content. John is one of the nicest people in rock, so do check that out. And before we get over to John, I just want to point out that we are heading into the Christmas holiday season, and I have decided to, as much as possible, between family and running around and Christmas and all that, I'm going to try to give you an episode every day. I know a lot of you take winter vacation or Christmas break or have some time off, or there's a few days here and there. So I'm going to give you as much content as possible for the next couple of weeks heading into the new year. All kinds of great interviews for you, including George Lynch, Dean Castronovo, of course, Revolution Saints, and Journey and stuff have a new album. Doro, Frank Marino, David Glenn Isley, which was co-hosted by Bob Kulick. It is the return of Bob. Desmond Child, Charm City Devils, and just a bunch more. So stick around, folk. The Christmas season will be merry and jolly here on Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. And by the way, if you can, when you listen to the episode or see the episode post and you've enjoyed it, if you could either head over to one of the sites, Apple Podcasts or whatever, and leave it a nice 5-star rating, that helps in the visibility of the show. But also if you could take to your social medias and tweet out or repost or share the episode, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I'm determined in 2020 to raise the visibility of the show to another level, the next level. I feel like I'm playing Donkey Kong or something. And anyway, I'm hoping that with the help and assistance of fans, we can make that happen. I don't want to be the dirty little secret. I want to be a household name. Well, all right, household-ish, or bedroom name. All right, I just want people to listen. Actually, I just want people to listen because I think the interviews are great, and I think the rock stars that come on here, whether it's Lou Gramm or Frank or Dean or Doro or Mark Staras of Crocus, they have compelling stories, and I just want folks to listen. And on that, let us take a listen to drummer extraordinaire from Seether, Eric Carr fan, Peter Criss fan, John Humphrey. We are speaking with Seether drummer John Humphrey. Of course, he's also in the Nixons. They have a new single out called Favorite Lies. As we say in Montreal, John, bonjour. Comment allez-vous? How are you?
Bonjour. Good. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, so we've gotten the Nixons news. Now, of course, the last time I saw you, it was in Laval, Quebec at the Place Belle, opening for Stone Temple Pilots, an incredible show, an incredible tour. And for folks that didn't see it, an incredible backstage pass with Bob and Doug McKenzie on it, which is brilliant.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, if I have your permission, I'll post a picture of it later. But let's talk the Nixons. You're back. You're going out on tour. Talk to me about sort of reviving the band and ultimately the brand. Is this just sort of, a hobby that you punch out once in a while, or is it no? This is a band, and we're gonna go act and be a band. What sort of the directions for the Nixons?
Yeah, I mean, initially this just started as a couple of reunion shows. Our home base, the band was originally from Oklahoma. We had a show in Oklahoma City, and then we did a show in Dallas at a favorite venue of ours kind of nationally known, called Trees in Deep Ellum, Dallas, kind of where we started. And it was amazing, man. We hadn't played as a band, the original lineup, in over 15 years. So to sell out these places and have people still care after all that time, come to see the band, I mean, we were just sort of floored by the whole thing. Of course, it was great getting back together. We had kept in touch over the years, and myself being with Seether and the schedule that Seether has kept, I mean, it was just near to impossible to really have time to do it. But the time sort of presented itself, and the shows went great, and that sort of led to new music. The singer, Zach Malloy, is a songwriter producer in Nashville, and he sent some ideas around, as did the bass player Ricky Brooks, and new music started to grow out of that. And then that sort of evolved into doing some more shows, and did this deal with Artist War Records is the label, and putting out a couple of singles, and then just announced, a couple of months ago, this upcoming 15-date co-headline tour with Sponge, East Coast tour that we'll be doing. So, my plate is pretty full. I'm staying busy. We'll do that 15 dates, and then I go right into the studio with Seether to lay down drum tracks right before Christmas. So I literally get on a plane leaving the Nixons tour and fly straight into Nashville and begin the next Seether album.
Wow, that's what I'll keep you busy. So talk to me about this new music. Was it just, like you said, the guys were together, you did these reunion shows and music or was it a little more contrived? And I don't mean that in a negative sense, whereas, okay, now we need something to give the fans. We need to not just show up and play the hits. We have to sort of offer them something fresh. And when you're getting to something fresh, do you look back to the old music and go, okay, need to give them classic sound? Or do you say, hey, we're free, we can do whatever we want, let's just give them what's in our head?
That's a great question, Mitch. And actually, the answer was that there was such a gap there, 15 years, that in a weird way, we were kind of free to do, what we wanted to do and let the music kind of go where it goes. The four of us, when it comes together, it definitely has a special chemistry. It did back then, and it still does. But no, that's one thing. We didn't want to rest on our laurels and just go play, the hit songs and just kind of stay in the 90s, so to speak. I mean, we celebrate that era. That's the original era for the band. But we wanted the music to be new, to be valid, to be contemporary. And I think if people hear, when they hear this new music, I think they'll hear that. I think it's valid stuff. It's new stuff. I think we can hang with current bands as well as, like do this run with Sponge and kind of celebrate the old days. But no, we didn't want to recreate the 90s or try to recreate a sound we already had. I think we really, kind of wanted to try some new stuff. And I think it has a fresh thing about it.
Well, it does. And the song sounds great. So let me ask you, in terms of you as a drummer, Seether has their thing. They have their drum sound. You've come in and you've had to replace live the drums that were before you. Do you go into the Nixons with a completely fresh version of you, or is John Humphrey the drummer just John Humphrey the drummer and what you play is what you play? Or is there a distinctive style for the projects where the Nixons drumming is whatever, more syncopated, more blast beats, more whatever you want to call? You know what I mean? Drummer-wise, are you the same guy, or is there a sound for each band?
That's a great question, too. And really, I am just me. I don't know if I put that much thought into it. I mean, I give whatever it is that I sort of give to the song, and I try to elevate it or contribute in some way to the evolution of a song as it grows. With technology now, the guys can send around demos, just like Sean is with the new Seether stuff. He can send demos, and then literally, yes, I go in and sort of, in some cases, replicate rhythmically what's going on, but then I'm kind of free to do what I do and to kind of add my style. And even though the Nixons and Seether, I guess the music, there are similarities, there are differences. Basically with both, man, I'm just me. I just do what I do, and I don't think too much about it other than it just sort of comes from my heart.
And for some reason, part of the audio went missing. So let's get right back to John Humphreys talking about the Nixons Latest Thing album. It included co-writes by Marty Fredrickson and Jack Blades of Night Rangers. That's correct, right?
The last album?
Yeah. Latest Thing.
Latest Thing. That's right. That was our first album where we had to work with or did work with outside songwriters for the first time. So yeah, that's right.
So talk to me a little bit about that experience, because Marty has come in and he's made a name working with Aerosmith and all these other bands, and at that time, Jack Blades and Night Ranger weren't really Jack Blades and Night Ranger. They were sort of in this abyss, but which they've pulled themselves out of, and they're doing great. And he was trying new things. What was it like working with those guys, this professional songwriter and Marty and Jack Blades, who of course has written some of the greatest songs that I'm sure that you must love as well? What was it like working with that team?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was an honor. I was really excited about the band working with Jack, and it was a whole sort of experience. There were a lot of first lessons with the Nixons. I always say I sort of cut my teeth with the band. It was sort of my first time to be on a major label, my first major tours, and this was again the first album, the first time we sort of did the quote working with outside songwriters. The band has in the past, and is currently, has written the songs. The band has written them, with ourselves. It's our material. It comes from us, and we've learned through the years how to arrange and record, and I think now we have a pretty good idea how the band sounds and our experiences separately. We sort of all bring that to the table. But yeah, that was the first time we worked with outside songwriters, and we didn't know what to expect. It was the whole band going to be working with them or what. And our singer, Zach Malloy, he flew out to California and he worked with Jack, and then he worked with Marty, and he brought the songs back to the band, and then the band would have a say in, oh, this is great, let's do something with this, or no, don't really think this fits the band. And the song that we did with Jack was First Trip to the Moon. It was the first single off the album. And I think it's a great song. And yes, man, I grew up on Night Ranger, Jack Blades, damn Yankees, man. You got to respect, everything he's done, and it was a great song. I think it fit the band really well. And then we worked with, you mentioned Marty Fredrickson, and Zach's good friends with him. And Zach does an annual songwriters festival back here in Oklahoma City, and he'll bring Marty from time to time, and Marty's a great guy.
Now, I know that we're in a bit of a time crunch because you've got something to go deal with, but so let me just quickly ask you this, and then I'll move on to Seether real quick. But when the outside songwriters come in, is that something that the band decides, hey, we need a fresh coat of paint, let's bring in some other guys? Or does the record company come to you and say, hey, boys, guess what? Surprise. Was it a wanted thing or an imposed thing?
I think, to be perfectly candid, I mean, it was initially a bit of an imposed thing. Like I said, the band had always written its music, and we were dealing with a major label situation. It was our third album. And, I mean, I don't think it was a do or die like we're, the label, I don't know, didn't totally force the issue. We maybe didn't embrace it initially, but then in the end, when Zach, like I said, brought back the music to us, we really liked the songs. And that album was recorded, Latest Thing, with Steven Hagler, who, is to this day a good friend and a great producer. And it was a good time making that album. And but we didn't know what to expect. So, yeah, it definitely was an imposed major label thing. We weren't too sure what to expect, but we did like the songs that came back.
Yeah, and just real quick, Steven had done some work with Skid Row, the Thick Skin album, actually. So let me quickly ask you this. Recently, end of November, of course, we remembered the passing of Freddie Mercury and Eric Carr. And, of course, you and I got to know each other through Loretta Carr, Eric's sister. Just quickly talk to me about his drumming style, because, we all know that Peter Criss had a great swing, and we love the early classic KISS, of course. And, of course, Eric Singer is able to do both Eric and Peter. But talk to me about your relationship with Eric Carr and his family, and also his drumming style. From a drumming perspective, how do you sort of, I don't want to say rate, but how do you sort of see Eric Carr?
Man, as you just mentioned, we've both gotten to know each other for the love of that band. I've met a lot of people, made a lot of friends over the years. And undoubtedly I'm a fan of KISS and the different eras and the members that have come through, but obviously a fan of the original lineup. But when I was old enough in the 80s to finally see KISS for the first time, the man, behind the skins was Eric Carr. My first show was Creatures of the Night, and I saw Eric Carr live. I saw all those shows in the 80s with Eric. Unfortunately, I never had a chance to meet Eric personally. I have friends that have and talk about how great he was with the fans and how personable of the guy he was. But just from a drummer standpoint, I thought he was amazing, man. His drums, it was an exciting show. He was a great, entertaining drummer. There was a musicality to the drum solos that he did. It wasn't just straight up playing stuff fast, man. I was just watching one of the Kissologies again. I pull out every now and then, and it was like a show from a Hot in the Shade tour, and watching his drum solo again. I hadn't watched that in a long time, man. It's just a great show and a great solo, and he was an amazing talent, and I just loved his playing. And anybody who knows me, knowing that I'm a KISS fan, knows that Creatures of the Night's my favorite KISS album, which, of course, has Eric Carr playing drums on it. Those drums just sound like cannons. And
they do.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love that. King of the Mountain from Asylum. I saw that tour. And I love that great opener to that album. I'm a big fan of Eric Carr.
As you should be. And I will add, in case you didn't know this, I did get a chance to meet him, and he was exceptionally nice. It was the Hot in the Shade tour. They did a record signing at the HMV in Montreal, which is unfortunately no longer there. And I spoke to him and stuff, and then he ended up inviting me to the show. He left passes for me, so I got to meet the entire band thanks to Eric. But before that, in 1980, when I first interviewed Gene, and they announced that Eric Carr was going to be in the band, I wrote a fan letter to management and said, "Hey, Eric, welcome to the band. It's a great pleasure to have you here," and so on and so forth. And he replied. He actually he sent me a handwritten letter. So I have every so often on my Facebook, I'll post a picture of this red letter. And he wrote back and he said, "Hey man, I'm glad to be." Anyway, it was like who does that, right? I mean, you're in the band, you've got so many things to do, you've got to learn the set and the makeup, and he took time to answer fans. And I'm sure I am not the only one who wrote him. There must have been hundreds or thousands. And according to his sister, he would answer every one. So.
It's amazing,
right?
Yeah.
Who does that?
I know, exactly. It's incredible. What a genuine person, And I think a lot of fans initially, we were upset to see Peter go, but we sort of embraced Eric. Dude, I missed out on a family weekend to go to the lake and to stay at home because Kids Are People 2 was going to be on, and they were going to introduce Eric for the first time. And I was just so excited to see who the new guy in KISS, the new drummer in KISS. And, being a kid, they talked about his audition and just sort of how they, this guy gets plucked out of a normal life, unknown, to be the new drummer in KISS. And I just sort of vicariously lived through, and dreamed what that situation must have been like to audition and to actually to get that gig and be in KISS, man. I love Eric Carr.
And honestly, and I'll say this, and then I'll ask one question, and I know you got to go, but I think that had he been an arrogant son of a gun, he wouldn't have lasted this long, and I don't think fans would have embraced him. KISS fans, they're very opinionated, but because he was so nice, and he did that to me, and I'm sure he did it to a lot of other fans, people were like, "Hey, I like this guy. He's a nice guy. I hope he does well." And I think that his attitude probably led to the fans adoring him. Not only the fact that he plays great drums, but I think he just was so nice that people just said, "Yeah, all right, he's KISS's new drummer." And I, anyway, I'm pretty sure had he been some arrogant son of a gun, KISS fans would have just eaten him up alive, right? And so good for him for being a decent human.
And it's not just the one or two stories that you've heard. I've heard these stories, Mitch, time and time again. Friends and acquaintances I've met through being a fan of KISS that have met or knew Eric Carr and say exactly that he was just a genuine person and would take the time to talk to you. And everybody who met him loved him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll finish with this. Of course, we remind folks, Favorite Lies by the Nixons is available now. You can go check it out on YouTube, which is always good. And Seether, The last time we spoke, of course, I just mentioned it. We were out at the Stone Temple Pilots. You were opening the show. What's next? What does 2020 have for Seether?
Yes, like I mentioned at the top of the interview, I'm about to go into the studio right before the holidays here and lay down the drum tracks for the new Seether album. So the first thing is to finish, start and finish the Seether album, which will happen. We'll resume after the holidays with overdubs and everything, January and February of next year. And 2020 involves the release of a new album and lots of touring for Seether. Seether very much is a touring beast that it's been. I've been with the band now just over 16 years. November 10th, 03 is when I joined the band. So it's just now been a little over 16 years, and it'll be a lot of touring. And which I love, man. Anytime we put out an album, it's usually an 18-month tour. And you mentioned about the last time we saw each other, that great run with Stone Temple Pilots, and that was just right about the 18-month mark of touring, which is pretty normal for a tour cycle for Seether. So, yeah, man, we like to be on the road.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Montreal show or that Laval, Quebec show was either the last or before last show on that tour, or at least that run of shows, if I'm not mistaken. I think
right.
It was. But there you go. And since you've been in the band 16 years, I guess I'm still waiting for the Seether KISS covers album, but I'm sure that's going to come. Right? I'm sure the band's been working up Strutter and Detroit Rock City. Yeah, right?
Get these guys to do a song. You know, the Nixons used to do Deuce. The bass player used to sing Deuce. Because when the Nixons started, man, in Dallas, in order to get into these clubs, we would do Monday nights at Trees, that club I talked about, would do like these cover band nights, were basically a tribute, I guess I should say. And so you would go in and do we did Black Sabbath night, we did a Van Halen night. You would do 2 or 3 covers, your band sort of style of it. But we did a KISS night. Anyway, we did Deuce, which went over great, and we kept it in the set way back. I think you can find us doing it on YouTube somewhere. Ricky, everybody singing Deuce, which it's perfect. But that's the only time out of all these years that I was ever in a band that actually did a KISS song. Isn't that funny?
Well, you see, and since you're going to release an EP, you probably need a bonus track. So why not? Right? Dust it off. Do a live version. Anyway, I know you got to get going, but always a pleasure, Mr. Humphrey, and we will see you soon. And of course, folks, do support the Nixons. Check out Seether when they come to town. Buy the new album, and as we say in Montreal, merci and voila, perfect. Thank you, sir. There you go. Thank you, John. All right.
Thanks, Mitch. I really appreciate it, man. Good talking to you. Happy holidays to you.
Here's Paul Stanley to tell you why he doesn't want to shake your hand.
Some people might have a little rock and roll pneumonia.
Ugh, not even cold gin will kill those germs. This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.